Welcome to the Brain Body Fit podcast. I'm Dr. Jerome Rerucha. I'm here to help you cut through the noise of fads and quick fixes and focus on proven strategies for optimizing your health and peak performance. Join me as we explore regeneration, anti-aging breakthroughs, nutrition, and the power of improving your physical and mental strength to unlock your brain and body's full potential. Welcome, everybody, to the Brain Body Fit podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jerome Rerucha, and today we're here with Nancy Caparelli. So Nancy is a top-level national figure competitor. I'm going to let her introduce herself here in a short time. So as everybody knows, tuning into this podcast, Brain Body Fit is a program that is to optimize what our personal goals are, to help people, whether they're doctors, their patients, and maybe you're trying to reverse a clinical condition, maybe you have a visceral disease, or maybe you're an athlete. You want to optimize your strength, your speed, or your body composition. And so who we have here today is we are going to talk about metabolism, specifically further that subject, because food is the foundation of everything, whether you're wanting to help your patients, you want to do lifestyle medicine, that's where the biggest impact is always going to happen. We want to prevent more problems than we actually treat. But of course, many of the most common things and even incurable things that people have. What we are going to learn about from Nancy today, even though she's a competitor, the foundations are the same. And that's one of the really big points we want to get across to our audience. We want to debunk the myths, the fads. There's probably not going to be a lot of biohacking talk in this conversation because nobody knows more about food than figure competitors, bodybuilders, especially at that professional level. And then you still get into the professional athletes that don't just want to look good, they have to function as well. But here again, there's so many foundations, and we want to debunk all the nonsense that so many people are taught. Not that we don't want you to experiment and use some of those things, but today's just going to be really great. These are the foundations that get optimum success if you're consistent enough and deliberate enough. And I never expect my patients to live as finite as Nancy does, what she's getting in competition mode. But again, this should help a lot of people as we move forward. So Nancy, why don't you introduce yourself here a little bit and then we'll get moving.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jerome. So I'm super excited. First time ever doing such thing. So this is great. I'm glad you're actually putting this together. But yes, so my name is Nancy Caparelli. I'm 41 now. I was born and raised in Peru. I came to the States when I was around 15 years old. It was supposed to be for a short period of time, but I figured out a way to stay. I knew in my heart that this was the place for me to be and thrive. And somehow I figured it out. And now I look back and I'm like, look, everything that I've done. But it took me a few years to kind of like navigate through it all, being a young adult. But then I moved to New York. I lived there for some time. Then I started my career in hospitality. That's around that time I was also into, I started looking at fitness magazines, and I knew that there was something there that I really wanted to try. And then that's when pretty much my career in fitness started, as well as meeting my husband, getting married. So I competed for a little bit. Just give you a quick overview. Then went into wife and mode for a while, and then decided to compete again a couple of times. And Fabio, my husband, has been very supportive. Although I know he's probably like regretted a couple of times because there is not such thing as perfect balance. As much as I thought I was present in every aspect of my life, I know I missed quite a bit, but that's what it takes. But anyway, so that's what we did. And now the kids are old enough, and we moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, where now we're closer to family. Felt like we're not settled. And like I said, fitness has always been a part of my life, and competing is a passion of mine. So I decided to take on that again. Even though now I know the sport has evolved so much, so you can only imagine not only that I did not get any younger, but also the sport had gotten a lot harder. So you can only imagine how much of the of the work and how much I have to endure me wanting to do such thing. But you know what? It's great. It's a goal. It just gets me excited. So here we are, me trying to do it all over again.
Yeah, and we're going to show people a little bit of a timeline with you. Nancy and I have been friends for quite a while. It's over 10 years. I don't know if it's been 15 for sure. We used to live in the same town where we met, and then they moved away. And with that, like I said, there's some of the transitions. It takes, total dedication to be able to compete, even starting at the novice level. And as Nancy said, she's 41, but she has progressed with the times. So we'll give you some shots of her as she's going through that. Now, before we get to some of the show and tell, and that's going to be a real good timeline to kind of talk about, some of the food of what you were doing, like some of the earliest pictures I have of you is in 2006, and then how we went. But let's just talk before you do that in real generals. We're not going to talk pre-contest. We're not going to talk bulk. Like, let's just really kind of talk, okay, here's your basic, the majority of healthy eating. We're not going to break it down into details, but more concepts, because you know this as well as I do. There's a lot of supplements out there. There's a lot of marketing. And I'm sure you probably agree with this as well, that when you're not competing and you haven't met competitors and you're reading the magazines, and it's just supplement sales on every other page. And this is the same for clinicians, so when clinicians are reading their journals and reading physiology, they're getting bombarded with supplement advertising. Same thing in the strength and fitness world of people who are just trying to find their way, read the magazines, but there's a lot of promotion in there. I mean, that's what it is. It's a paper commercial.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioning that, because that brings me back when I remember 17 years old, and I'm reading all these magazines and I'm trying to look just like them. And they used to put the diets and the supplementation. And I thought, hey, that was the recipe. And I did it for quite a bit. It's not until I was 20 that I realized, oh my God, I'm following all this to the T, and I just couldn't look like them. So I knew I was missing a piece, even though I was consistent, right? And it wasn't until I decided to work with a coach that knew what took to get to that point, that really dialed in my nutrition, training, etc., to my specifics as far as like how my body was responding, and kind of took it from there. But it wasn't until then that my physique actually transformed.
Yeah, and everybody kind of starts that way. You do the best you can, and you're younger than I am, so you're 41, I'm 54. So, what I started is, there was pretty much my entire lifting career, there was no internet. And even when there was, it just wasn't that great. The content there, it just wasn't there. So the learning curve for information has shrunk so much. Now, some of the problems today, there's so much information and there's so many pieces. And obviously, we always do the best we can on this podcast, but, the big thing is we do future podcasts, and this podcast, people are going to understand, there's a flow to this. So even where we're talking about this 1 to 2 hour podcast, where does this fit, in the big picture of the flow? It's not just take this magic supplement for this or eat this magic food for that alone. Like, there's a whole system that applies here. And when we talk it, as we're talking about, everybody kind of has that common knowledge. Most people don't start with a professional coach unless your parents were really into it. And then, of course, you get all those extra advantages. But yeah, you're kind of led to believe it's like, ooh, supplements are going to get me where I need to go. So read the magazines, you take all these supplements, you're taking them all. And then when you start competing and you look around and you're like, oh, okay. And you learn in a very short time, even at the state level, the people that are finishing on the top half and even winning, they really don't take near the amount of supplements that the newbies are taking. Like, the new people are taking a ton of supplements. And then the established people that are already kind of winning state or placing in the top 2 or 3, it's like, nah, I don't really take that.
They have already figured it out.
Yeah, a little bit. And then you get to nationals, people take less supplements and they're way more into food. And then once you get into international and world, that's a whole different deal.
I think you learn how to train better too, intensity, all that kind of all together.
And not only you have to be training regularly and intense and consistent, but you get smarter.
Recovery.
And there is... again, the people, when it comes to food, there is no class you can take. There is no degree you can get that will give you the experience and the knowledge of competing. And even though there's differences between a little bit, between strength sports and figure sports, and there's some cycles, and, we do a lot with wrestling cuts and MMA weight cuts. There's a difference, but still, when we're going to talk the foundation of foods, we're not going to get too deep down the hole here. I just really want to get the point across that we want everybody to know, even if you're a pro, the basics are the most important. Like, that's what sets the foundation for everybody. So, as well too, we've got keto, and carbs are the cause of all evils in the world, and you're going to get diabetes and fat and all this stuff. And
that is very true.
Fat diets are out there. I mean, whether you call it paleo, you call it plant-based. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fad diets. Yeah. And you probably do none of those, correct?
Yeah. So, well, I've tried to learn them all whenever they first came out. You never know. It's not something that I had tried. It was something new. I always wanted to learn. But then I realized that, sure, you're going to see results right away as soon as you start one of these trends. And that is ultimately because you're eliminating a lot of the inflammatory foods. You're getting rid of the gluten. You're getting rid of the some of those food groups that are not longer hurting yourself. So sure, you're going to see results right away, and that's where people get in that hype of like, oh my God, this is it. But then they realize that you can only sustain it for so long, because a lot of times they're also just focusing on the number on the scale, and they're not really paying attention at the biofeedback. How is your body feeling? How are you sleeping? How are you performing not only at the gym, but how do you feel at work? How do you feel? How do you show up to your family? That is very important. And that's when you realize, this is very specific for everybody, but just from my experience and also working with others, having an inclusive all macronutrients nutrition seems to be the key to longevity when it comes to doing this right, as far as whether you're competing or not. But if you just want to have longevity in just taking care of yourself and be consistent, I think that is the key.
Yeah. So you're basic, let's just say when you're not in competition mode, of course, you're always in good steady state training mode. And
it can go up and down. I'm human too,
but of course, yes, but overall, I mean, it's a lot of stress getting ready for a competition. Like, you have to be dialed in. Now, our patients, and most of the people watching this, they're probably not going to compete, but some of them, they can, and they will. There's no doubt. So you're talking more of a balanced diet. Like, you don't eliminate any food group. Like, you eat carbohydrates, you obviously eat proteins and healthy fats, and you're super concerned about digestion. Like, if doctors who really understand the importance of digestion, there's a ton, pretty much all natural healthcare practitioners. You can be a mainstream practitioner and say, oh yeah, digestion's important, but they don't do anything generally compared to the detail and the proactiveness of what natural healthcare practitioners do to really maximize and take care of the digestive process. But this is what a lot of clinicians who are listening to this may not know, that when we start getting into the competitive lifting, especially figure, it is so obsessive compulsive of being healthy. The healthier you can make yourself, the higher your ceiling's going to be. It's not about tricking the body. It's not about stimulating the body or suppressing certain functions in the body. It's about facilitating optimization. And I know you and other girls, so specifically, what category of competition do you do? Just explain that a little bit to people.
Sure. Absolutely, because I know this is a sport that is not many people know a lot about. I do the bikini division. There is different divisions after that. I would say that is like the entry level now. However, because bikini has evolved so much, now they had just introduced a new division. But I do bikini. I compete in the NPC IFBB Federation. And yeah. I mean, I started in a natural federation back when I was in my early 20s, and I transitioned as I learned more about the business, that I really wanted to be with the best of the best, even though it was harder. But
Yeah.
Yes.
As you're working for your pro card right now, it is still largely like of bikini competitions that people like are picturing. Maybe it's like, oh, so you do a bikini contest like in a bar, like when I was in college. It's like, no,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah. Yeah.
you're wearing a
Yeah.
stage certified
Yeah. I mean,
bikini,
they're
this is
looking, yeah.
a
Yeah.
whole different deal.
That is very
And,
true. When you call it bikini,
yeah.
it tends to be,
Yeah.
you know,
So it's bikini, and then is it figure, and then wellness, and then bodybuilding? And could you just kind of
physique
map?
and then bodybuilding. Yeah, you got that
Yeah.
right. So it is bikini, um, wellness, figure, bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But now they just introduced a new division called Fit Model or something like that, I believe. So yeah,
Okay.
that's new. It's just starting this year.
Yeah. And just for people to know, a lot of people are like, oh, bodybuilders, they take a lot of drugs and steroids and this and that. And it's like, to go to certain levels, you may need to, but definitely the federation that Nancy does, it is amazingly beautiful, so it's very drug free. Some people may be taking some bioidentical hormones, at a certain level, but this is very, very natural. And that puts all the emphasis on proper training. But anybody who competes in figure, it may seem like this is a little exaggeration. Most people say diet is 95% of it.
But training, I mean,
Well, it
I
is.
would say, it's all tied up. It's not just
Yeah.
one aspect overall, but you can definitely screw everything up if you don't eat properly.
Yeah. Well, I hear people say that all the time. And the only reason I bring that up, and I'm always like, yeah, it's probably a little exaggerated by figure competitors.
Yeah,
But what they talk about is everybody's working hard. Everybody's training hard.
that is very
Everybody
true.
is ultra super disciplined.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it's that chess game of understanding physiology, but then there's those little tweaks. And the higher you get up, it's like that's when you really learn those subtleties to where even 10 grams of protein a day different can make a noticeable
Huge
difference on
difference.
stage.
Yeah, and that
10 to
applies
15
also, I
grams
would
of
assume,
carbs
in
and even timing. So we don't want to get
yeah,
into the micro minutia with that today, but I do
sure.
just want to really stress as we're setting the foundation to this as, no matter how far you want to go in your life, it's the foundations that are most important. And most clinicians would die to know what you know. And even though there are smart people, it's a totally different audience out there. I will always say, having experience in both worlds, the clinical world and the athletic world, there is nobody out there that even remotely knows food to where the figure competitors and bodybuilders and the people
Yeah.
that have to rely on weight cuts and figure competing. And then the only thing better than that is when you can get a doctor that actually helps people get on stage. So those are super rare. They are out there. There are some doctors that compete, and there are doctors that it's not their full practice, but they do help people get on stage. And those are
Yes,
few and
I've
far
heard that.
between, but oh my gosh, they also would admit that, yeah, I don't do anything they taught me in med school when it comes to these types of things, whether you come from the natural world or the professional or the traditional world. It's like, yeah, these people have a level of health that is not done by any of the general public, no matter what.
And what's so fascinating is that the way I've learned, and a lot of us in this sport, is we learn it through applying things on ourselves, and that's what makes it so good. So there is a lot of questions that have come my way, and I not always have the answer as far as like the reasoning as to like why X, Y, and Z works and what other things don't work. But it's not until you apply it on yourself over and over and over again that you realize, oh wow, this is just so unique on every individual, and that's what makes us good and better.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great physiology out there. I do. Right now, I'm not in competition mode in any way, shape, or form. Don't know if I'll ever get back there. I love helping the competitors, especially starting from ground zero and scratch and then helping them progress. But I like combining that understanding of academic physiology and understanding to what we do. But I completely know if I didn't know anything that I wrote in the books, that's really got nothing to do with how you place on stage. And if you want the results, and you can reverse engineer it if you want to figure out all the pathways, but if you want the results, you have to do it. And there is nobody better at doing it than the athletes. And then it's the clinicians' jobs to reverse engineer it. But most people don't use this as the standard. So with me, I always use the drug-free strength lifting, the drug-free figure competitors, because these people are amazing. They look like superheroes, what they're capable of doing, whether it's form, function, structure, truly amazing. Things that will help you be a better clinician when you apply those different aspects. So as we set the stage for this, and so just as a little reminder, so Nancy does eat a balanced diet. She doesn't eliminate carbs, and you guys are probably going to be amazed how many carbs she eats while she is really leaning out. And we're going to discuss how that works. But of course, it's all food groups. Of course, if you're allergic to certain things, you're going to eliminate those. Again, in Nancy's case, and especially everybody in Nancy's category, because they're not using some of the anabolic aggressive drugs, they obsess over digestion and absorption of nutrients and high quality of food and balance and structure and evaluation and reevaluation. So as we progress into this, I am going to take us through a little walk through history with Nancy.
Oh, wow. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about 20 years ago.
Sent me a lot since I'm a clinician, and I'm a very unorganized person in real life. But as a clinician, I have to have patient files, and I do a lot of lab testing. We're a very multidimensional clinic here. So we are physical, chemical, emotional, and we do all inclusive programs for people. So yeah, when people give me stuff, I stick it in their file, and always knew at some point Nancy and I were going to do
some so helpful
metabolic lecture.
Look at it now.
Yeah. All right. So this is 2006. So obviously Nancy is the girl in the center of the three, and then it's close to the same picture, just her all by herself off to the side. So tell us a little bit what's going on here. It's 2006.
Yeah.
How were you kind of being taught, thinking of eating then? And obviously we're going to see the progression, and you've changed with it.
Sure. That was my first season ever. I worked with an amazing friend now, Angel Mendez, when I first moved to New York. He had helped other competitors, but he was the one who pretty much set the foundation for me as far as what it takes to look like that, right? So right here, like I said, he taught me how to eat, how to implement all the macronutrients. So we started off just with everything. We started off with the baseline. And then after that, we started playing with different food groups, or not maybe food groups, but different food types within the group. So let's say like one day we'll do beef. What happens to my body the next day if I have beef before going to bed, and things like that. So we started like learning about how my body reacts and to different foods, and finally come up with what really works best for me, so that whenever I was closer to show date, then I looked my best, because we knew what my body needed to support that good physique, feel good, because you still want to, even though there, back in the days, even though you want to have a really good physique, you also want to look fresh and you want to look healthy. So health was always priority. He always made sure that I didn't even overdo any stimulants, like a lot of competitors around that time were all about the coffee and the fat burners. He was just very particular about keeping me in check, inside out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was a second show. This was a national show. I had done a regional first in New York, and that qualified me to do a national. That was not NPC or IFBB. This was Musclemania. So if I can't remember correctly, there were about over 200 competitors, and I placed top 5. So I did very well.
Yeah. Say that again. You placed where?
There were over 200 competitors, and I played top 5.
Yeah.
So I did 3 different categories, and I did very well, just being my first time ever. So that was pretty cool.
It absolutely is. And again, you just can't do those things alone with good genetics, like the amount of work. And I tell people, it's like, yeah, some people are more genetically gifted than others. Right now, everybody's going to say, oh my God, like Nancy's beautiful and this is easy for you. Look at it. It's like, okay, that's a lot of work. And as you're going to see in some future pictures, as life kicks in, life
I was a
goes through
baby
different
there for
cycles.
sure. I had all the youth.
Right. All right, here we go to 2013. So from
Yeah, so
2000,
after that, I competed for a bit more. I remember actually in 2006, I also had the privilege to go for the World Fittest Model competition. I did a quick audition and I was able to be on the Olympia stage. So we forgot to mention that. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, so fast forward, I got married. And right before Fabio, my husband, decided to leave New York, I had that bug that I wanted to compete again. I was still at home, and I reached out to a good coach and good friend of mine as well. He's like family to me, Victor Munoz, who we had worked also in my previous season towards the end, but we never really got to work for a competition fully. But he did get me ready for the Arnold Classic when I got sponsored by Capparelli Nutrition to be the spokesmodel for one of his products. So he got me ready for that. So that was great. But anyway, so fast forward, I went to him and I said, "Hey, I want to do this one more time before I leave New York." And that's what I did. So this is the NPC IFBB organization. This is an NPC level to be once you become a pro athlete, then you can compete in the IFBB. So this was my first NPC competition. That was in New Jersey, worked with Victor Munoz, and we placed again top 5.
and obviously there's a difference in your physique from 2006 to 2013. So
Yeah,
how old were you in 2006?
2006, I was 20, 21.
Okay, and
If
then
I'm
in
not mistaken. Yeah.
2013 here you are.
I had to be maybe 29 years old,
Yeah.
give and take.
So
Yeah.
again, some people are like, "Oh, wait till you hit 30. It gets
Yeah.
worse." And we can see
Yeah, it's true.
Nancy. I mean, here she is, young, prime, and young lady in her
Yeah.
early 20s, and
I
she's
mean,
on
this was
stage.
already after one kid, or my son Armando was already 8 years old here. So my physique has changed. I'm definitely older, but that was a plus. It allowed me to bring a more mature physique.
Yeah. And again,
So
with
yeah,
consistent training, that's what it is. Where everybody thinks, "Oh, as you get older, like we're all good at age," but the generation even before us, like, oh my gosh, the people that are 70 and even almost 80 now, like we have some amazing lifters at our clinic. And this is just point. Would people say that, age is just a number? There's a little truth to that. I mean, you're not going to be at age 60 what you were at a highly tuned, dedicated athlete of 12 years of training at age 30. But again, the general public's just like, "Oh, wait till you get to 30." And it's like, it's because you're a walking trash can for 12 years already. I mean,
yeah.
this is normal. It may not be common, except people that, are conscious about what they put in their bodies. They're conscious of when their body's going backwards and, "Oh, I need to get into it," or where you have these types of goals. And you don't need to compete just to be sensible and to be healthy.
For sure.
So obviously we really want to raise the ceiling with everybody, but because we're showing you somebody who is, again, trying to get her pro card today as we go through these slides, but the health foundations that Nancy does, if you had fibromyalgia, if you had Crohn's disease, if you had any autoimmune disease, if you had hypothyroidism, if you have depression, if you have anxiety, if blood pressure, plaquing, you name it, if you just did the foundations that she does on her worst day, all that stuff would go away.
That is very true. Very true. And looking at these, when it comes to what I did as far as nutrition, I really didn't change anything as far as the method of what I applied. With previous picture, 2006, I was with Angel Mendez. On the right, Victor Munoz, and we pretty much applied the same principles, which is making sure that you include all good, healthy fats, good carbohydrates, so that I can put the right effort into my training, but as well as my recovery, and of course enough protein for muscle growth. And yeah, I mean, there's really no secret diet there. It was just simply having a well-balanced whole food, focus, nutrition, and just simply being consistent at it. I think that's just the key to everything. And of course, supplementation, just making sure that you have what you need, because we don't, as we know, we don't absorb everything that we eat, right? So we just wanted to be extra careful, just making sure that I have all the vitamins, minerals, etc. that I needed. But yeah, it's pretty much the same principles apply from that picture to the other picture.
Yeah, it's just consistency over time, probably training.
And learn how to train better.
Training's a little bit different, which exercises work for you a little bit, timing of food. I know even in 2006, people were really smart with nutrition. I mean, people were super smart with nutrition in the competing world in the 70s and 80s. I mean, you look at Greek statues, it's like, people really used to look like that back then,
And they were not
just because
trying.
It's whole foods, eaten in balance. And as we progress through this, people are going to be amazed at how much you eat in order to lean out, where everybody thinks, I got to eat less to lose weight. No.
That's what I thought back in the days. But this sport definitely taught me a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no book that's going to teach you this rather than doing it. So here's your wonderful family. Yeah. And so 3 kids now, none of them are adopted. So if anybody's like, well, just wait till you have children. It's like, well, Nancy's had 3 kids. So
yes, that is true. Yeah.
As we keep progressing here. So, all right.
Ooh.
What's going on
here?
My
lows. So that is 2018. That was short after I had my last child, Tiago, the little one right there. I mean, if I remember, that was a one pregnancy, my last one, that I felt like I was really, really out of shape after the fact. But anyways, I was always determined to get back at it. But yes, that was after having Tiago. Yeah,
but this is called life. Now, you're currently not pregnant. You're just fluffy in this picture. And
that's right. Yeah.
But my point is, life kicks in. Like, you don't have all the, your life is like everybody else's. You are a bionic mom. You work full time. You wake up early to trade. You do your food prep. Now, we do have to say you are married to a 5-star chef. So Nancy has it a little better than some. Fabio's a fantastic.
He cooks all the good stuff. But when it comes to my prep, I'm stuck just going to the basics. So, but he does help a lot as far as like being a little more creative.
Yeah, without a doubt. So we're probably going to have other podcasts to where we really can talk, when people are just, when the laundry detergent makes you really hungry when you're walking down the grocery aisle, you're starving yourself with your diet, so when everybody's super disciplined and it tastes like cardboard, just the simple chicken, rice, broccoli, no salt, no sauce, no anything on it. However, in the future, we'll talk about some little food tricks. It's like, hey, even eating chicken, rice, and broccoli, you can put thyme on it. You can put rosemary. You can put lemon. You can put cilantro. Those things aren't going to make you fat. Makes it taste wonderful. They have extra micronutrients, and
you can even put sauerkraut or kimchi.
And it's like eating healthy cabbage. Does not have to be boring. I mean, without a doubt, it's going to get tough when you get close to showtime.
It is hard work.
90% of the time, no, you got to eat a lot. You got to be consistent, and you make really healthy, simple foods. You can make it taste really good to where you look forward to it. And you have to. Nobody can plow through eating cardboard for years at a time.
Yeah, that is very true. So, that's 2018.
Yeah. So, and I remember when you sent me this, the day you took this shot. So even that little memo was down there, which most people can't read it. So that's why I put it up there. So even even when Nancy was in her fluffy state, and this is what most people would be like, well, girl, you're just getting older. You're just going to have to accept that. And again, she's super busy, but she's not making an excuse. She goes, it's not genetics. I just do what it takes.
Not.
I choose to have zero excuses. Yes, some of us have more disadvantage than others, but that's life. You can still choose to put the work and get it done. That cannot. I'm surprised I put that together so beautifully, but that is so true. Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Life-Based Professional Healthy Eating Systems. We all know intuitively that the food we eat affects our shape, our health, and our performance. But every day we're inundated with new quick fix diets or gimmicks that claim magic promises and for most failed results. Nutrition really shouldn't be this confusing. LifeBase is the solution that promotes eating real food and optimizing your individual needs without fads, gimmicks, overhyped supplements, or fake prepackaged foods. LifeBase Solutions is a complete system helping anyone know what to eat, when to eat, and how much to eat. The LifeBase system offers medical-grade body composition, client education, and state-of-the-art data analytics to optimize your individual needs and achieve maximum outcomes, complete with live coaching from a credentialed professional with experience. Go to lifebasesolutions.com to learn more and contact directly. Whether you are a client looking for coaching or you want to start your own LifeBase professional business, eat better, look better, and feel better. lifebasesolutions.com. If you are interested in personalized health programs and want to work directly with Dr. Jerome Rerucha, schedule a paid consultation to apply for starting a 3-month professional supervised healthy eating program. Also available are individual comprehensive restorative care program options with additional lab testing and services. Head over to PerformancePractic.com or simply click the link in the description to learn more and apply. So you don't have to get too personal. It's not like you got this big, deep, dark background and everything, but me being a clinician, one thing I also want to stress to people is there are times where people find figure and bodybuilding and martial arts. Those are probably the two things where people can really be in a dark space with depression, anxiety, severe diseases. I mean, I've known people that got in such bad car accidents. They had horrific pain, life debilitating pain. Nobody could help them. Every doctor failed them. They crawled into the gym. Some trainer just starts working with them loosely. And 2 years later, they're on stage and they look amazing. They feel amazing. They're moving amazing. So whether it's a visceral disease, whether it's a physical impairment overcoming, like throughout this time, have you had some challenges? Not that you're just trying to be beautiful, fit, and lean and compete at the highest level. Was there some?
Absolutely. Yes. I struggled with anxiety for a very long time. I started having some episodes really early. I would say in my early 20s. Here and there, I didn't know much about it. I didn't know what it was. And then once I started a family and, life happens and I have more responsibilities, that started to increase and become a little more present in my life. And so, yes, I did struggle with that. Even to this day, it's something that I always keep in the back of my head, but throughout the years I have learned, and even after working with you, which you were so kind when we lived in the same town, you did also help me a lot to kind of just break through those layers and kind of just really dig some very deep and get some of those things out there. But yes, it's something that I have struggled with a lot, but I tell you that sport has served me so well. It keeps me busy. I have a goal in mind. I feel like it is when we get to getting our heads just worrying too much is when everything just kind of just comes to the surface. But yes, it is something that I have a struggle for a long time.
And it's that structure, but it's that structure of health to where it's like you have to work out at a certain time. You have to balance your family at a certain time. You have to get your food in because you can do all the family stuff. You can train as hard as you can. And if you don't fuel your body with food, it's not going to do it. And that can take a long time. I mean, obviously there's a routine you develop with it, but I'm probably going to assume.
Even just having that structure nutrition plan allowed me to keep my sugar levels pretty level throughout the day. And I truly believe that also helped me with feeling not so anxious on the day-to-day.
Yeah. And in our clinic, we do a lot of all sorts of things here. I mean, you name it. We're a very holistic clinic. And but over the years, I've done quite a bit of depression, quite a bit of anxiety. And some people have really been victimized. And so, those people absolutely need counseling and therapy, and they're not weak people. Some people have had really unfortunate things to them. And there's a benefit to what we could do as clinicians. But if you really want to heal these things, I can't even tell you being able to work with people And I mean, people are in dark, suicidal places and they think the world's crashing in on them. And physiologically, they're just so broken. And when they find the gym or martial arts, it's those two things that I find that it is so empowering to people. Here again, if we could do brain scans on people prior to them just starting training.
Oh, that would be
And then
so
they get
interesting.
structured, they get their education, they get confidence, they get empowerment. All of a sudden, food is not this fear factor. Like food's my enemy. No, it's not. Food's your friend. You know, people with anorexia and bulimia, like those people just haven't had a good coach. Food is your friend.
Yeah.
It will take you anywhere you need to go of how you want to change your physique. And then you start getting into the neuromechanobiology, whether you want to do figure, whether you want to do more athletic sports, whether you want to do strength sports, but again, driving the body, activating it, and focusing on those positives when you can learn about yourself. Well, what workout does work better for me? What food and diet works for me? So even though there's times to talk about and counsel on some very unfortunate things, bad things happen to good people, but it is so healing to start digging. Okay, where am I going to find these answers? And once you walk through a door, and I just tell everybody, the shortcut is find somebody who's competing, who's not an asshole. They want to help you. There's so many great people. And the biggest, baddest, scariest people competing, whether they're fighters, lifters, figure competitors, those are generally the people with the biggest hearts. And they want nothing more than your success. So I encourage people to go out there and be respectful of those. But yeah, if you break a conversation with them, they want to see you succeed.
They'd be surprised.
And there's a chance that they were where you were once upon a time. Because I tell everybody, like, just what we want.
If not in a darker place.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like you were never in that super dark, we're not, but yeah. And I tell people too, like when you go to a bodybuilding competition or any strength sport, it's like, you got to understand probably half the people on that stage came from a very dark past. And whether it's martial arts or it's the gym, it saved their life. And not only they're better and okay, but they are thriving. They're super successful, positive people helping other people. So it is just such a great avenue. When all you have is yourself, you can fix it. Like that's what
I mean, is that pain that you go through that really helps you have that courage to go for something extraordinary? Sometimes you wonder when everything goes smooth and life is good. You feel like there is something missing for you to go for something so great like that. But once you dig deep and you find a little bit of pain from the past, and then you learn how to channel that to something like that, it's great.
Changes you forever, whether you went through the bad or you didn't. It still changes you forever for the better.
Yep.
All right, so here we go. So this was after 2018, and like you said, you had a previous life of competing before that, but obviously almost starting over. And I knew Nancy was in go mode at this time. So that's 2018, and then we got you on that one lower picture. And at that time, as we knew you were really setting to make some very substantial goals for you. So I would ask you, so what's your basic macros right now? So look at how...
Yep.
So I'm just good, and I'll let you have this. So look at how fluffy Nancy is at 2018. And this is, maybe 6 months, the first picture, April 25 there. But look how much she leaned out. So right there, she's weighing 133.5 pounds, 1,300 calories per day. And she was starting to be a structured eater already. Now, I'm just going to guess, like probably at 2018 when you got pretty fluffy, like you probably ate only 1 or 2 times a day because you're so busy with family, job.
Exactly.
Life was not.
That's the crazy part.
You're not trading. And then to get to April 25th, 2022, and all the weight and figure improvements there, you're probably eating 5 times a day. You're eating at least twice as many calories, and it's not like you're working out that hard. I mean, let's face it. You're
it is very true. Yeah,
but
that is very true.
What people need to understand is your metabolism is like a bonfire, and if you don't feed it, you have this smoldering, worthless little fire. And when you feed it and you give it simple, high quality, easily digestible foods to break down, and you combine them properly, you don't eliminate carbs, you don't eliminate meat, you don't eliminate some silly, goofy, ancestral, stupid thing that never happened and people selling a book. And this is what happens when you properly food combine and you stair step it. So you got to meet your metabolism where it's at, but you always got to throw a log on the fire.
Yes.
And
To
so
build
a
that up. So
tremendous
just
amount
to,
of calories to lose that much weight and lean out.
yeah. And as you can tell there, my calories increased tremendously. And just again, eating the same foods, just more amounts. And training. I mean, I was training hard, but it's not like I was killing myself, training 3-5 hours a day. But I was putting the work in and just being consistent with food training. So right there on the picture, when I was at 1,300 calories, that was my starting point. That's when I decided to get back into competing again. And that was the first picture that I sent to a coach. And we started working together. And within months, she was able to get me to about 2,000 calories, about the same weight, but you can see the difference in my physique already transforming. So we pretty much recomposition my physique. We lost some inches on the waist while we kept the same weight. So that can only translate in building muscle mass. And of course, I'm holding more water too because I'm training hard. But yeah, I mean, that is a perfect example of what recompositioning a physique it's all about.
But here again, even as lean as you are, there are like some people would go, oh, she's too skinny. Well, she's really healthy. I mean, you really took the time, you built your metabolism, 2,000 calories for 100.
Yeah, no, and that is that's not even the highest I've been. I mean, I've been close to 3,000 at some point, but yes, but that was us working towards really ramping up my metabolism as high as we can and try to see how much more can my body take without adding that extra body fat, so that I can put in a lot of effort at the gym and feel good and be good hormonally as well. So that way, when we are ready to cut, to be on the stage, we don't have to diet down so low. So the higher the ceiling, the more room we have to go down without having to starve myself.
Yeah. But right now, I mean, if you weren't trying to get on stage, there's still some food cycling you have to do. Like you literally could live on, I mean, 2,000 calories a day is really fueling your body great. Your bones are getting nutrients. Like when people eat so little, like we do a lot of body composition exams in here, lab testing and functional lab testing of all the systems in the body. And it's amazing as people age how little they eat. They go, oh, I'm just not hungry. And it's like, because you broke your metabolism. And like people have such low muscle, and you don't have to work out. Of course, Nancy's work it out, but these same principles, we do these exact same principles on our people that walking to the refrigerator is the only exercise they get. But we get them to start eating whole foods in proportions that fit their metabolism. Their metabolism still raises even if they're not working out. And these are still very similar results. Like we get people who need to lose 50 pounds and they lose 50 pounds of fat, no muscle, pure fat, just by eating. And maybe I could hopefully get them to walk a little bit more than they normally did. You know,
yeah, it's amazing how much real food can do.
And a lot of that I do in the clinic, of course, I read all the books, I took the seminars and I gave seminars and I took all the functional medicine seminars, and that's never going to do this. Like the level of common sense, you're still missing knowing all that. Now, the cool part is there's a lot of things I do know that I can help people with certain medical conditions. And it's like, oh, this is, I can identify the problem and help communicate to the person. But it is these exact same principles that I apply to our patients, and we get these same concepts. Every patient's like, how can I eat this much and I'm losing so much weight? I go, that's how God built your body. Just because
you're eating what it's meant to be eaten.
That's it. Unfortunately, everybody's been taught wrong largely. And you can still do a lot of good. The fad diets, I kind of get it. But nobody who's successful in the country at a competition level Nobody does
Yes,
fat.
whether it's physique or performance, can thrive on eliminating any food group. That is definitely a truth.
Yeah. All right. So here we go, progressing a little bit. 2019, probably just a little bit steady as you go. I don't know if you're using the same coach. Now, once again,
Yeah,
even some
same
of
coach.
there for
We're
a
still in
while,
the
I
same
think
prep
your
there.
high stress period now was gone. You've been a little bit more, the move, jobbed out, the job you have now is probably, you may have had a different job at this time, but nonetheless, everything's really getting in a flow. Once you make
Yes.
training right, when you can work on getting training right, normally everything else falls in place.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, so here we go. We start seeing maturity. So how old are you? The bottom row is 2022. So we start really seeing that timeline starting at 18. So look at what Nancy did, just steady as you go.
Yeah.
Maybe you took
After having the three children, that's back in 2022. That is great. Yep. So
yeah,
on the pictures below, I'm already going in through the cut phase. As you can tell, I am tighter, smaller, leaner, and on the stage photo right there, that is the first original show that I did on that season, which is 2022.
okay. So this is just kind of comparison. 2013,
Yep.
2019, 2022, as people can kind of see these progressions.
Yeah, and it's well, great. That's actually a good slide too.
Yeah. So, I mean, here again, the sport has progressed. We know more about healthy eating, more about training. And the thing is, when you set a goal, when you set a date, it's just bizarre. It's like, I'm not training any harder. I can't eat anymore. I can't eat any cleaner. But when you set those goals and you put it on the calendar and you put positive people around you, stuff happens.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by PerformancePractic TV. All types of practitioners and patients who want to know more about natural healthcare love to subscribe to PerformancePractic TV. PPTV is a cost-effective, password-protected, online, extensive library of training videos for clinicians and staff, as well as general consumers looking for direction and solutions to help themselves that can be watched from anywhere on your favorite Wi-Fi device. Education and training include Dr. Jerome's 3D brain-body mapping exam and correction system. This involves identifying multidimensional asymmetries through a comprehensive approach. Once the imbalances are identified, extensive hours of various proven corrective methods are the focus, including the research, physiological mechanisms, along with hands-on instruction, including regenerative cold laser therapy, adjustments, soft tissue, when to use orthotics, pulsed electromagnetic frequency, whole body synchronous vibration, corrective clinical exercises for general consumers and competitors, as well as detailed nutrition and healthy eating to optimize your metabolism for healing or performance. Understanding the physiology and application of guaranteed healthy weight loss, muscle gain, and strength improvements for the look and quality of life outcomes you desire. In addition, there are numerous lab testing examples that apply to having more energy, hormone balance, immune enhancement, correcting digestion, brain health, understanding mechanisms and solutions to become pain-free, toes to nose, and discussing the limitless science and integrative protocols of anti-aging, including peptides, cell therapy, exosomes, and more. New content is added regularly. As long as you are subscribed, you continue to access all the materials. Subscribe today at watch.performancepractic.com.
Once you start living in alignment with your vision, it's kind of odd and it's hard to explain, but it's not until I can fully be 100% in it and really vision it and see it for myself. And the moment that I flip that switch and I just live in alignment to that vision is when change happens that day off that I start. The body just follows through. It's incredible how that works.
And that's why we're called Brain Body Fit. When you can put this kind of effort into the body, learning the education, it's going to change your brain. It's going to change your mind,
synchronized
your attitude. And of course, you do mental training. Athletes do a lot of visualization. What are you going to do the next day?
A lot of mental.
And the brain affects the body, but man, that body affects the brain. It's a two-way street. It doesn't go one or the other. And this is a result.
That is very true.
And I bet you could imagine it's like how much mentally stronger you are from this whole process from when you started? And
I mean, now when I look back, what I did this past summer, if you look at the pictures at the bottom, that's this past year, 2024. I look back and I go through in my mind of everything that I had to do and endure to get ready for that stage. It was a lot, and some days I look back and I wonder how I did that. But then the next day I wake up and I'm like, oh, I can do that again. So it's
yeah. So
such
just
a
a little bit
such a
right
mental.
now. Like again, you don't have kids that take care of themselves. And
That's right. Yeah,
and
you're
and
still young.
also you're still a great wife with Fabio of how you guys manage. You work full time. So give us your basic day. And this has gone on for 25 years with all kids. But I mean here
That is
again,
true.
you are at a right at the cusp of pro level. I think you should have
Yeah.
got the pro level last year. We watched you compete once, and it's a little
Oh, thank
subjective
you.
there and all that. But
Yeah, yeah. But
nonetheless, I mean, hands down, this year it's going to happen. Should have happened last
let's
year.
hope. We'll see.
But with that, so you've done give people give people your average day, and
Yeah.
I just want people to know there are thousands of people that do this and other dedicated. Everybody does this. Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true. So a typical day for me would be I wake up now. As a matter of fact, my husband and I just built a home gym. We're still in the works, but I pretty much have everything out. So I get to sleep, I guess, an extra 30 minutes there that I just bought for myself. So I get to sleep in just a tad more, which is very helpful. So I wake up, but even before I was able to work out in my garage, I still have to wake up by 4:35, get ready, take whatever it is that I have to take in the morning, whether it's my pre-workout, whatever that may be, head out, go work out, come back by 6:30 in the morning. That's when I get the kids ready for school. I send them out the door by 7:30, so we take about an hour to get ready. Once they're at school, then I have another hour to get ready, eat my meals, pack all my food, shower, get ready for work, and I leave home about 8:30. I'm at work by 9, and I'm there throughout the day. Leave between 4 and 5. Get home around that time. I don't work too far away from home, gladly. Come home, and then we go into the after schools activities like sports and stuff like that. So depending on the day, um, it changes a little bit, but there's always somewhere to be. I tell
Oh,
you that. So typically my last meal is in my car. So I come in, change up really quick, make sure the kids are good to go, pack my last meal if I'm going to be on the road and head out. Not to mention some snacks for the little ones if I'm taking my oldest to a specific class or vice versa. But anyway, so it's not just packing my meals and prepping myself, but it's also the school lunches. They don't eat the school lunches. I prep all their meals at home. So when we're getting ready for a school, I'm cutting everything fresh, making the sandwiches in that moment, or the fruit and the veggies, etc. So it's not just about me, but it's also about them, just making sure that they live that lifestyle and they're taken care of as well, since they're very young. So we do that, and then I typically get home depending on what we have going on between 8:30. Put them to bed, get dinner ready. They go to bed, and then I hopefully try to go to bed by 9 o'clock, and then wake up and do it all over again. That's like Monday through Friday, every week, and then on the weekends we still have you know quite a bit going on, getting chores, doing food prep, um, activities with the kids, finding things to do with them, relax a little bit, laundry all day. But yes, it's busy every day.
yeah, without a doubt. And it has. Obviously, your two youngest are super young. Armando is a young man already. So when you guys
Oh
were
my God,
over in our
yes.
place this last year, because you guys live like 5 hours away or so we don't see each other that often anymore. But you guys were over this last year. So Armando's how old?
He's 16 now.
Yeah, I thought so. So as he's hit puberty and he trained some, and he's definitely a very growing young man, but not to embarrass him, but on another project I have, we've got an acne cream and a protocol that's really amazing. So when Armando was over here, like he has perfect skin. Like most 15, 16-year-olds, they hit puberty, they're really acneed out. And it's just because Armando doesn't even think about it. He just eat what moms eat, and he likes being healthy, and he likes eating healthy.
Now
That
more than
kid
ever.
didn't have one zit. His skin is like perfect. Like I've never seen a 15, 16-year-old kid. It's just because he eats clean compared to.
It's very impressive. Yeah, how clean he
And he
is.
doesn't
And
even
he
think
just took
about
it
it.
upon himself to like try foods and try that and what works. And he knows how to see when how he performs at his MMA classes or Taekwondo and, what works, what doesn't work. So he's already ahead of me at only 16 years old. But I mean, you have to see him now.
Well,
He's doing great.
yeah, but that's because of mom and dad supporting him and
Yeah, that is true.
the shortcut he gets. Anyway, this is just a little bit, closing this chapter of it, of just kind of using your timeline and your history. And here you are, it's 2025. You haven't competed that long ago. You're getting ramped up. When's your next thought and competition? Like what's the goals coming?
So the goal is, again, to hopefully get a pro card this year. We are shooting for nationals in New Jersey. This will be in July, the first week of July, which is the one picture right there that you're showing right now, 2024. That will be the same stage. So trying to go there again. I already qualified, so I don't have to do a regional show. I may do one just to warm up, but the goal is to step on that stage again, and there are probably a couple more right after. So if I don't get my pro card that day, I have a couple more opportunities after in that summer.
So yeah, we're really excited about this next year, and I know you are too. And you're working with Victor again, so a blast from the past.
Yeah. So
I know
back
Victor's
in
going to be
2022
super excited
and last
to
year,
take this from start to finish this time because he hasn't got a chance to do that too. Victor does a lot of big names out there, so the people in the magazines, that's what Victor does.
Yeah, no, we're excited. It feels so right already. So I'm glad that we reconnected and we're taking this journey together.
Absolutely.
Especially with everything that I have learned from other coaches. I think we're going to make a really good team.
Yeah. And so before we close, and whether you take 5 minutes, 20 minutes, or an hour, I don't care. Now, you also train and work with other people. So people who are watching this, and whether they're aspiring people who want to compete, or they're like, ooh, I could never do that. And we're like, well, maybe, but we'll cross that bridge later. Let's get past step one. You never know where this is going to go. People, they could flick a switch and all of a sudden they're like, holy cow. And the belief they get in themselves, just understanding like, wow, look what I did. Like, this is amazing. So you work and train with people. So let's take a very average person who is, they look nothing like you. And what do you tell them? Like here again, it's pretty basic to what you're doing, trying to get your pro card. There's a lot of education. It's just kind of step by step, teaching them the habits, but it's not like they're eating so different than what you eat. It's just tailored for where they're at right now. So take us through that, just briefly, just a little bit step by step, because I know you train people regularly and you're doing meal plans for people as well.
Yeah. Throughout the years, I've learned that what I do doesn't necessarily is going to work for everybody. The way things work for me, it's can apply to some people, but not to all. So the first step is to kind of meet them where they are and kind of just learn what they've done, what the goal is, and to make sure that I go over what I believe is going to take to get to that goal and outline that for them, so that way we know if they are committed to follow through, so that their commitment aligns with their goals. But as far as like the method, it is very individual. I mean, there is some clients that I do all macros, some clients that they will prefer a meal plan because they just want to be told what to eat. And there is it just depends. The profession that they have, the age that they are, their all the experiences and the goals are all very different. So it's just pretty much getting to know them and ultimately what it is that they want to get out of this. And my goal is always to educate them so that they can trust the process and understand it so that they don't always going to need me, right? My goal is to one day for them to thrive and really understand and learn about how to take care of themselves on their own. Because it's really not that hard, but it's kind of just taking the lead and really learning and having that commitment to do that for yourself. So I just try to teach them, empower them, and the goal is always for them to, at some point, move on their own and thrive for themselves.
Yeah. And then, of course, you're dealing with people that some people have a digestive diagnosis. Some people have somewhat sensitive digestion and indigestion. And that some, when you go, how's your digestion? They're like, good. And then 30 seconds later, well, I had my gallbladder taken out 12 years ago. So it's like, well, so your digestion's not good. Okay.
Right.
So, but that being said, so I know you do with your page. So just briefly, like kind of give people, because you're not just popping enzymes and hydrochloric acid, which is great, like a lot of doctors do. And I'm not against that, but let's take it from a lifestyle perspective. Share with people, because I know you do this with your clients too, because you're starting from scratch, and that whatever you start with scratch, you do every day on yourself too. So
Yeah.
I always tell people, it's like, when you first start out, your workout just becomes your warm up years later. What took you to get through an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half. Well, now you do an hour and 15 minutes or hour and a half almost in 10 minutes, but it's called a warm up. Yeah. Okay. But with your digestion, let's just kind of go over a little bit, because you do this with other people, but you don't have indigestion, but you obsess on your digestion just to absorb nutrients and turn it into healthy, lean muscle tissue.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons why digestion is so important, especially for the sport that I do, it is because it is a aesthetics. We want to make that illusion of having the smallest waist possible, so you can have that hourglass physique, and that's the reason why we emphasize digestion, but also to just make sure that we're going through a prep and we're not struggling with any discomfort or inflammation or stuff like that. So so that's the reason why. And it comes down to food, but also recovery. If you're not recovering properly, if you're not sleeping well, your digestion is also going to go off out of whack. It may not be necessarily food. So we kind of like dive into what are the things that could be a factor of what those issues are there, and kind of just to start testing things here and there until we find what is actually triggering those problems.
And then, so outside of food elimination and see what agrees with people better than others, but like you eat fermented foods very regularly.
Oh, yes.
You do apple cider vinegar every day. Like, what else do you do in those things? I mean, are you doing the lemon juice and cayenne pepper? Like kind of give that naturopathic type of mentality with it.
Yeah. So what I'm currently doing right now, every morning, and this goes back when I was growing up, my mother always had that lemon water in lukewarm water in the morning before we went to school. I mean, telling you, just being mindful of what I put in my body started way back when I was a child. But I always start off with lukewarm water and lemon in the morning. Sometimes I do add some apple cider vinegar. I'm not as consistent, but I do have my lemon water. I just also started having kimchi. I'm really enjoying that spiciness and that, and of course, the health benefits from digestion, or some sauerkraut. But yeah, that's one thing that I'm doing. Another thing that is helpful that I've noticed is not drinking so much water after my meals, kind of just allowing my body and my digestive system to kind of just break things down. And so I wait a little bit before I start putting that water down, but that helps a lot, as well as obviously not eating a large meal before you go to bed. When I am at work after my meal, I kind of step away from my desk and I do a quick property walk. I work at a hotel that is 8 floors, so I tend to go all the way up, say hello to all the housekeepers, all my employees, kind of checking on everybody. But I also utilize that as an opportunity for me to move. So it's like a win-win. So I do those things, and that seems to help a lot to keep my digestion in check.
Yeah, and let's just go through the macros a little bit. And obviously with proteins, organic, free range if you can. I mean, if you can't, you do the best you can.
Sure.
But there is a difference, grass fed, wild food, non-factory farmed. It's going to have more micronutrients in the meat, not just the macronutrients. So all of those things
Correct.
make a big difference. Much healthier fat ratio, not as much arachidonic acid, all those things that do add up. But when you're a novice, it's not a deal breaker. Like, you can go a long ways, sadly, eating really crap.
You definitely can. You first want to lay that foundation and see if you can actually follow through a nutrition plan, right? Before you start kind of just diving into what other things can you be better at and how can you make it better. But going back to basics and being consistent at the basics, believe it or not, is the hardest thing to do. And that is the struggle with a lot of my clients, is kind of just getting them there. So let's say after a week, they don't see much of a result, and they're often quick to say, well, why are we changing on my diet now? And I'm like, well, how we follow it through at least at a 85-90% adherence. And a lot of times it's like, no, I had this going on, or there are just things that just came up that did not allow them to follow through, let's say, at 90% adherence. And I always tell them, well, let's work on that first. Let's be consistent at that and accurate at that before we start looking at changes. So just checking out the boxes, pretty much setting that baseline for some time. It's very, very important.
And then healthy fats. I don't know. It's been a little while. I mean, not that long since we talked, but we haven't deep dive. We haven't talked shop for a while on physiology and stuff. But so with healthy fats, I mean, obviously, in the figure world, is the talk of getting rid of seed oils like is big a deal, and in some of the other areas, to where the hardcore people, there is a benefit. There is some more PhDs and clinicians coming into, we've lived 35 years of carbs are bad. That's just been shoved down most clinicians' throats. Now, athletes have never bought into that. They've ignored it the entire time, especially lifters and figure mostly. But obviously, there's a time to reduce carbohydrates to do it, you too.
For sure.
But so a lot of people consider olive oil healthy, and I still have no problems with olive oil. But I know some of the super hardcore people, they don't even take olive oil because it's 13% linoleic acid. So they really function grass-fed butter, which is 1% linoleic acid, ghee, coconut oil is 1%. And then there's also now Zero Acre, which is a brand, but zeroacre.com. It's fermented sugar cane, but once again, a very stable oil. It's pretty much exactly the consistency and taste of olive oil, pretty much. But has a much higher smoke point, super stable, no PUFAs except 1%. So it's as low as you can get.
Oh, wow.
So those are the ones. So those are the ones the hardcores eat. And then, of course, wild free range meat where you like shoot an elk in the middle of nowhere. They don't even buy store-bought meat. But not everybody can eat like that. And you don't have to be healthy and to be great. To kind of set the bar, this is where it's at. But so as far as fats go, again, you can't cheat one macro group even to do what you do. So what are some of the most common fats you use, and not on your weight cut time, but like just what percentage of fats are you kind of taking?
And to be honest with you, the fat sources, even carbs or protein sources, don't change a lot throughout prep, even when I'm cutting down. It's just the amounts that change, right? Yeah. So we try to nail down what works best for my body as far as digestion and what makes me feel my best and look my best. So in that sense, that's what it comes down to. But would you like me to go over some of my fat sources of choice at the moment? Sure. Yeah. So right now I'm big into avocado, walnuts, whole eggs. And right now I'm sticking with those three.
Right. Yeah. And it is. It's just that. Keep it simple. Yeah. Simple, consistent. Yeah. And there's a big difference between buying eggs for 99 cents a dozen compared to
difference. Yep.
Buying the eggs and now inflation, it's going up, and up, so, and all those types of things. But again, it may look like an egg. I always tell people, yeah, I know that looks like an egg, but it's got nothing in common compared to these eggs, So
Yep.
we always
That
want
is
to
very
just
true.
stair step people. And I have people that they have never walked into a grocery store except for chips and beer in order to tailgate. And other than that, they literally eat fast food or they eat out 3 times a day, every day for their whole life, basically. And they're disasters. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how
Yeah.
to food prep.
It's very
And
sad.
even then,
Yeah.
though, but it still is a very possible way to meet them where they are. I always tell
Oh
people
yeah.
you can always eat at Chipotle. I'm not saying you're
Yeah.
going to step on a bodybuilding stage eating
Yeah.
Chipotle, but it's 10 times better than what you're eating. And when you start breaking down the macros of it, it's like you got meat, you got options of meat, you got some vegetables, you got
Mhm.
rice, you got your fiber, you got your carbohydrates. It's like, help people make it as convenient as possible. So
Yes, and I always tell them just change one thing at a time, just one thing at a time, and just be consistent. And slowly you make steady steps forward.
yeah, and having a coach is just a shortcut. I mean, whatever a coach costs, like when you get a coach that actually competes and they compete successfully and they walk the talk, game changer. I mean,
It
why
is.
reinvent the wheel? We live in the
Yeah.
information age, we live in the technology age, a lot of great information online. You have to filter it. So you may have to ask a professional to weed through it. It's like, just focus on this. And just like you said,
Yeah.
you just have a few options and you don't need more
Mhm.
than that.
Yeah. And I just make it as simple as possible so that way there are the least amount of variables in what I'm doing. So I can pinpoint a lot easier if something goes a little bit sideways.
Now we're going to touch on carbohydrates, which,
Yeah.
if there's a lot of clinicians watching this, people are so, I want to be as nice as I can. And it's got nothing to do with clinicians. People are so brainwashed on
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I
evils of
mean,
carbohydrates and all these types of
they're
things. So
just
let's not talk about you as, I mean, you can grind out when the time comes the super simple meals, no alter. But how do you train your normal people? Like, give some list of healthy carbohydrates, and that may even exist that they could eat certain breads over certain breads because just because it's
yeah.
a bread. Maybe if you have a gluten intolerance, I know you take that into consideration. We take that into
Yeah.
consideration, but gluten doesn't bother everybody.
Yeah, that is very true. Mhm.
However, no matter if you're gluten intolerant or not, or what your philosophy is, there's just certain foods, they're simple foods, they break down easily, and carbohydrates is where we get our energy. And I'm going to do other podcasts and I'm going to go into the whole metabolic pathways of, are you doing oxidation or glycemic or glycolysis? And first and foremost, when people want to argue about low fat or high fat, high protein, low carb, no carb, keto, ketosis, it's like, okay, first of all, let's identify what pathway do we want to use. There's hundreds of diets, hundreds of biohacks and
Ways.
nonsense out there. There's only 3 energy pathways in the entire body. There's only 3. And creatine phosphate is 6 seconds of energy. So we're not going to worry about that one. It's going to be there. And then you have glycolysis and oxidation. So glycolysis is where you effectively burn carbs. That's a whole talk on itself. Thank goodness if you know where to go. There is a huge wave of people lecturing out there on the benefits of healthy carbohydrates with a balanced diet. And half the people out there were hardcore ketards and people that said for over 10 years carbs are bad for you. And now they're going, oops, I was wrong. Oh my gosh, I started implementing this in a proper structure. Their lab tests are better. They feel better. Their body composition's better. And they're starting to explain it out there. But the pendulum is still so far of not understanding. And I'm not against people doing keto or low carb under some instances, because when you do eat this bioenergetic method where it's like, look, we eat for fuel and we still want it to taste good, but we are eating for fuel, tissue regeneration, recovery, brain function, nervous system function, digestive function, microbiome, flora. All those things is taken into consideration with how you eat. And it has to be optimum in order to win.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about, don't give us your baby step version to the average person you would help that's a non-competitor, but give people some ideas into carbohydrates because they're so confused because they've just been lied to.
Yeah, I believe that nowadays, because I think we have more options like we used to have, let's say 20 years ago. I think we became very creative when it comes to carb sources. Like for instance, now you can have rice cakes instead of oatmeal every day. But some of the carb sources that I often suggest are either gluten-free oatmeal, organic oatmeal, cream of rice. You can have rice. I stay away from whole wheat rice. I do jasmine white rice. I've always done that. I grew up on that, so I digest that very well. And people are still very confused when they tell me you eat a white rice and I'm cutting down, right?
Yeah.
But yes, so I do rice. We can do quinoa, different types of potatoes. And it comes down to how you cook them and how you season them to make them taste better. So just becoming a little more creative there. But yeah, those are my my carb sources. Oh, let's not forget about fruit. Fruit of choice is. I don't think we can go wrong with any fruit out there. But
Within
yeah,
certain proportions, I mean, we have to say that, obviously. You don't get all the
absolutely,
fruit you want
absolutely.
because bears eat a lot of fruit to get fat and hibernate. Okay. So we're not saying that,
That's
but
correct, yes.
yeah.
But as far as the choices that you get from, yeah, fruit and complex carbs like your sweet potatoes, your rice. Like I said, I have some oatmeal, cream of rice, and some rice cakes, figs. You can do figs, you can do raisins. What else? You can do honey, local organic honey. That's a really good one. So if you want quick energy source right before training that is low volume, so you
So
don't waste
ideally,
time.
just to pause you and interject. So you already said it, pre-workout,
Yeah,
and that's a whole science. We'll probably, it's appropriate here, obviously.
yeah,
So post workout, one of the
yeah.
things if people get involved in this, so you will hear so many pros now, especially podcasts are a big deal, even YouTube videos before podcasts. You'll hear pros all the time go, I don't really take many supplements. I don't promote supplements. And they go, I don't even really accept sponsorship from supplements at times. Once people get so established, they're like,
Yeah.
they're all the same. The label changes. They go, except post workout. So everybody agrees, like post workout, that is the only time supplements can work better than food. But the other
That's true.
thing, so people don't understand, honey's bad for you, fructose is bad for you.
Mm.
That's not true. Even with
And not
diabetics.
all
So
honey is
I
made
want
equal.
people listening, on this. So not only I've learned so much because I didn't come up with this stuff. I learned it from people like you when,
Mhm.
25, 30 years ago, when you're that little kid in the gym, you don't know anything, and you
Mhm.
find the people, they help them teach you. And so much of what you learn in school versus what they say in the gym. And I'm like, well, I'll tend to believe the people who are living it more than the people
Yeah.
writing. But so honey, what the years ago by friends who are professional fighters and they're doing the massive weight cuts to fight. And it was amazing how much food they eat, how much carbohydrates they eat. So, they walk around ripped at 215, but they fight at 170. And that's pretty
Mm.
standard. It's not just to have the skills of a professional fighter. You have to be a professional eater. Now, most of them, they hire the coaches to do these things. And it's definitely a little different than bodybuilding or strength training. The foods are almost the same. It's just a little different timing, quantities of food. But it's amazing. People are blown away like how much they have to eat to lose the first 25 pounds because they need
Mhm.
energy to train. But one of the things they do too, which I just did not understand that because, you're going to all these
Mm.
clinical seminars and honey's bad for you and fructose is bad for you. And they're eating 7 ounces of honey every day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I asked him and I'd be like, and he's like, I don't know. My coach doesn't tell me I can't have 12 ounces a day. I guess I just eat 7. Now, if you calculate how much sugar and how much carbohydrates, but what people don't
Quite a bit.
understand with carbohydrates, now you can't do that as just a regular person necessarily.
Correct. Yeah.
But when you're working out, stored energy is glycogen, which is just stored glucose in your body. So when you physically work out, you deplete all your glycogen if you work out really hard, like competition hard, especially martial art hard, where they're doing multiple days. And so we eat food to break it down into amino acids, carbohydrates break down into glucose ultimately. And that whole process makes energy, but it's the glucose that goes back in the cell and your body metabolizes glucose, especially your nervous system. It wants glucose, not ketones.
Yep.
And I know a bunch of people want to argue with me, and that's for another podcast. We're going to get to that because I love that conversation. Anyway, but with that, when you're so depleted, it's a timing factor. Like it turns out, you do want to combine your amino acids or preferably food a lot of times, but post-workout, even supplements are better. So when you could just take a amino acid complex with honey, that is like rocket fuel going into your body.
I mean, you digest it the fastest.
You can recover. That's what people don't understand. It's such a short recovery window, and all our data analytics that we do with bioimpedance, immediately, it is so amazing to see it change in how everything changes just by doing that. And the recovery, what takes some people 4 days to recover, you could see physiological changes epically in a couple hours, And it's just
if like, for instance, if I really wanted, I'm not into cereal, but I remember last year I tried this and coach said, hey, if you want to have some cereal, post-workout is the time. Just mix it up with some, let's say, non-dairy milk, your protein shake, put it in a bowl, and throw in whatever cereal you want. If anything, if you want to have it, this is the time. And I did that for some time, and I was still getting great results. It was the first time I've ever done such thing. I was kind of surprised myself because I'm all about just going for wholesome, non-processed food. But I said, you know what, coach is saying it, let me just see, just for the sake of trying it and kind of just see if my body will do indeed what I was told it would do. And it did not affect me in any negative way.
It is. And it's, once again, it's because that bonfire that you trained for it. And it's also, once your cells are depleted, they are screaming for quick, fast, not Coca-Colas, not high fructose corn syrup, even though even in this window, sad to say, you're going to get some benefits out of it. I'm not saying optimal. We don't want to do that.
That is very true.
But these exact same concepts, we're not doing pre and post workouts with people unless they're really working out hard. But these exact same concepts that you're talking about, we do this with severe diabetics. Obviously not type 1 diabetics, but type 2 diabetics, that's easy to reverse. And we reverse type 2 diabetics when they eat, and we have all their charts and they got the little sticky patches on them. So we have 24-hour analysis. And commonly when they don't watch it or they do what their doctor tells them, their blood sugar can shoot up to 450, and all this. And I'll double and triple their carbohydrates. They're just different types of carbohydrates. And we're food combining it with healthy proteins and healthy carbohydrates that have fiber that occurs in it. We give up vegetables, and it's all calculated based upon, in their case, their pathetic metabolism, but we work the ratios. And within a week, their blood sugar is never above 250, and it just keeps getting better, better, and better. And we're not doing fad diets. We're teaching them how to eat. So one of the biggest problems that the world has, and probably there's a few places maybe worse than the United States, but we're fat. We are fat and an unhealthy country. We are second from the bottom of our medical system, our hospital system. We take half the drugs of the entire planet. So there's almost 8 billion people on the entire planet. There's 365 million people in the United States. So a fraction of the percentage of the world.
Wow, Jerome, that's very alarming.
365 million people take half the drugs of 8 billion. Oof. And it's because of marketing, propaganda, and bullshit. And I'm saying some of it's not useful, but I'm not taking any. So some poor bastards take they're taking my share in order to do all that either. And it is. And I see this every day. And it's fun for me to take people that's like, well, my doctor said this. I'm like, well, what's your doctor look like? I mean, come on. Like, really? I mean, and you believed him? Like, so and we got a lot of great experienced patients that walk around, can talk to people too, so yeah, but this is one of those things that if you want to eat low carb, you can. That's a different metabolic pathway. So that's going to be oxidation, and you don't have to eat it just to do long distance. And I'm going to get into that in another podcast of where we really talk about evolution, survival, how our body, thank goodness we have these various metabolic pathways, but you don't have these infinite amounts, all these hundreds of different diets and all these fancy biohacks. It's like, that's great. Lifters and high level competitors never call it biohacking. They just call it, that's the way the body works. And this is what we're going to do in order to get the next level with what we're doing. So, I mean, did I kind of miss anything with that? As we just kind of ended on carbohydrates. And like I said, I'm going to be kind of furthering that detailed conversation with some visual aids and giving people some charts they can make, so a lot of times with people, and they do have health problems, we do food allergies on them. So then even if chicken, rice, and broccoli is good for them, like sometimes we've had people, they're allergic to chicken and broccoli, so it's like, well,
oh wow, yeah,
we got all sorts of different options. So so that's some of the advantages. That is nice to be the clinician, and we can integrate those things. So not only, but I always tell people too, it's like, if you learned this the way a competitive athlete, who you will never optimize yourself and you will never win. There is a saying that we do that it's like, if you want to beat the man or woman, you have to out eat the man or woman. Like at some point, you can't just work out hard. You can't just have good genetics. You've got to do the detail of fueling your body at some point. Maybe not at the novice, maybe not at the state level, but you start going and everybody's getting more and more competitive out there. It's amazing to me still how many top level trading facilities, their nutrition is horrific.
Still lacking.
How they coach it, but it's not even allowed. You just won't go anywhere in the lifting world, whether you're a strength athlete or you're a figure competitor. It's like, good luck. You'll enjoy the bottom your entire life if you don't obsess on learning as much as you can of application, not textbook information, even though you know a lot. But it's the application of doing, and that.
And like you mentioned, coaching is such a great investment because it is true. Once you start learning and trying to educate yourself and apply that on your own, it is understandable that you're going to question quite a bit. You're going to get overwhelmed. So that's when a coach comes really handy and super important to me. Like I coach people for lifestyle, and I have coached competitors before. But even for me, I think the having a coach is very, very important. It just keeps me focused. I not only not have to overthink everything or question the journey, but I also learn through them, and they keep me accountable. So I think coaching is a great tool to have.
Yeah. So just before we close here, so you still train people. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, don't give them your cell phone over this, and we'll post it on the screen. But you let me know. You could send me specifics to like your Instagram account or email, however you want to do it. We will post it on this. If anybody wants to contact Nancy, have her as a nutrition coach take you through these aspects. And you also will still do some workouts for people as well. You do.
Yeah, I do that. I just don't train them in person anymore, just because I don't have the time. But I do put together workout plans for clients. Yes. Yeah.
So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Oh yeah, we can do something as simple as email. I am at Capparelli Nancy at gmail.com. That is CAPPARELLI. You're probably going to have that on the screen there, but Capparelli Nancy at gmail.com. Or you can also go on my Instagram page and send me a message through there, and you can get a hold of me that way. And my Instagram page is Nancy Cap Fit. So that is Nancy CAPPFIT. That is my name on the Instagram. So you can shoot me a message through there. It is public account. So you don't have to necessarily friend request me for me to accept you. So I get inquiries through there all the time. So those two ways will be perfect.
And you do a good job when you're getting ready for a contest mode. People kind of follow you, and
Oh yeah, they like
they're in
it. They
it
were
with
missing
you.
it for a minute. They're all getting excited again. They're like, oh,
Yeah,
she's about to start
yeah.
sharing the journey.
So what month coming up? How many months away are you? What do you have?
Right now we're about 6 months, a little bit
Okay.
less than 6 months. So right now I'm not cutting in. I'm just again
Yeah.
setting up a baseline again because for the past 4 or 5 months I kind of just live life, did not think much of it. Just from my experience, I kind of know how much I was eating. But right now it's just getting back into a structure, going back to the basics and building my metabolism. So just to give you an example, right now we're following a meal plan, but by just breaking down my meal plan, I know I am around 1,800 calories, but that's my start. My goal is to build that up as high as possible. So in another 3 months, I would kind of turn around the
Yeah.
corner and start going into prep mode and getting ready for a stage. But
And
right
even
now,
at
it's just
age 41, how close to 3,000 calories do you think you're going to get?
um I don't think I'm gonna get to 3,000 on the day to day, but I think I'll probably get close to 2,500,
Okay. Yeah.
just give and take just from experience. But I do see myself implementing some refeeds that would allow me to reach the 3,000 or maybe a little bit more, depending on how my body responds. It just all comes down to that. If my body says, "Hey, you're dropping out a bit," or if I'm feeling depleted, it's always good to add a refeed of like let's say an extra 1,000 calories or even 500. So, but it all depends. It all depends. Every prep is very different. But just going from experience, it is possible that I can probably build it up to about 2,500 right now. Just also looking at the timeline. I know these past 4 months that I kind of took it as an off season. I had been eating quite more than that.
Well, you deserved it because closing your last year, like how many shows did you do at what period of time? I mean, you
I
really caught
did,
some momentum and
yeah,
t-
yeah. No, I did. I did two. I did
you
the
did three
original
for
show.
sure. You did
I
three
did
for sure.
three, right?
You did three. You did three for sure. You didn't do four. You did three for sure. But they were all in like within six
Within like
months
a
of the
couple months,
three
yeah.
shows.
And
Yeah.
and then it was when I was gonna do another one that I decided, you know what, I think
Right.
my body needs to rest
Yeah.
because my sleep was starting to get
Yeah.
sacrificed, and I was my body was definitely telling me that I needed to take a break. So,
Yeah.
which is
Well,
what I did. But yeah,
you are. You're
we did
super
quite a bit. It was
smart.
a lot of work.
You do it right. You're amazing to help other people. I know for me, being the clinician, I take some people that are really broken and I would have complete trust in you dealing with those people. But obviously you guys position yourself throughout conditions. But once I get people out of crisis situations, and especially I always look for coaches around the country, and hands down, when I refer people to Nancy, I know it's getting done more than right. And they can't get this work except in other people within this profession, because people within your profession are amazing. They know so much. You can't get this information anywhere else. You can't get these results anywhere else. And it is epically healthy how you guys work with people and how you treat people. And obviously, when you push it to the levels you are, there's always that. You're threatening overtraining all the time, but that's the goal
Yeah,
of competing.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
nonetheless, you're so
And it's done
sensible.
for a long period of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
without a doubt. All right. Well, Nancy, this was great. Thanks for your time. We're definitely going to do another one.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah. No, this was a
between the
great.
listeners, however they contact you, we've got lots of great information coming out, but food and metabolism coming at it, sometimes from a clinician standpoint, coming at it from a strength and fitness perspective. They overlap completely. It is a little different perspective. It's a different communication style, but there is such a huge overlap. But I will tell everybody, you're not going to be a better competitor by going to med school. You're not. Or a natural healthcare school. You're not. In fact, you'll place worse in your competing. And that doesn't mean what we do and what other people do help people with certain clinical conditions, but If you want to be a doctor and you want to learn physiology and nutrition at the level that is unparalleled in match, get with competitors and start competing yourself, because whatever you just learn with talk, you will never learn it versus
I always like to tell people, I just wish that everybody did one competition, whether it was a performance competition or a physique competition. It would just teach them so much, not only about how food works and training, etc., but how much
how their brain and body works.
And how capable and how much really they can push through. It is wild. But anyways,
I agree with you, but I always say you do it twice, because your first one, and then you prove to yourself, oh my gosh, like you make huge changes early on. You get to that first one and it can be great. But the real thing is, it's like, okay, now take what you know.
And make it better.
What's that so bad when people do two of them, and it's like, and I always tell people that if you test out worse than you did after your first one, you fail. Wherever classes is, like, no, you get the loser award. Like, that's impossible. No matter how dedicated, no matter how great you do on your first one, you better do better on your second one. You better be stronger. You better be pound for pound stronger. You better look better to figure competition. So you do.
That is so true. Yeah, 2. Let's go for 2 this time.
Yeah. All right. Nancy, you have a great rest of your evening, and I look forward to the next time we talk.
Yes, this was great. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Brain Body Fit podcast, where we are dedicated to helping doctors and clients integrate clinical evaluation and performance enhancement. Please like and share this episode with someone who wants to empower their own health and actively participate in the health revolution of the growing millions. Epic changes are real. Visit us at PerformancePractic.com, where you can explore premium selected products and services that we have used to change the lives of thousands in our clinic and seminars for decades. Follow us on our socials. All the links are listed in the podcast description.